So if you've been following this channel at all, then you know I've talked a lot about infrared saunas and all the benefits that come from infrared saunas, the difference between infrared sauna and finished saunas. And today we're going to talk about red light therapy and kind of how that compares with infrared sauna. If you are on social media at all and follow health related topics, there's been a lot of buzz lately on, in my red light era, using red light for this and that and that. And today I want to kind of go through some of the background stuff with red light therapy specifically, and we'll talk about kind of how that works, how it compares to infrared sauna, how you can use both to maximize benefits from them, and then based on what your goals are, which one's probably going to be the best option for you. So to kind of kick it off here, we're just going to start going over what red light therapy is just in general. So in one of my videos in infrared sauna, we talked about the visible light spectrum and the infrared light spectrum and the different wavelengths of light, and basically the difference between, X-rays and microwaves and visible light rays and infrared light rays is the wavelength, right? So we have a very narrow visible light spectrum. Red light sits on the very extreme of that visible light spectrum, right next to near infrared, far, and mid infrared light. And so a lot of times what you'll see is that red light therapy beds or devices you get at home are going to be coupled with near infrared light. A lot of your infrared saunas are going to be far and mid. Some of them will have near infrared light with that as well. And so near infrared is going to kind of be the crossover between the infrared spectrum and the red light spectrum. So a lot of times you'll get combinations. I sit in my infrared sauna all the time, and when I use my infrared sauna, I use the setting that has far, mid, and near infrared all turned on. I've also got a red light at home that I'll use for kind of different things. So that's what we're going to get into, and the red light I have at home also has near infrared. So I do get some crossover with those two things. So just in general, red light therapy, also called photobiomodulation, is going to be in the red spectrum about 600 to 700 nanometers, and then the near infrared spectrum from like about 700 to 1,000 nanometer range. So we're kind of ranging anywhere between 600 and 1,000 nanometers with that visible light spectrum there. When we talked about infrared sauna, one of the big benefits is that penetrates deep into your tissue, and it actually helps to heat up the tissue. So infrared saunas are going to be paired with heat. Red light therapy is not going to be the same. So when you're using a red light bulb, you may get some heat output just from the light bulbs themselves, but the goal of red light therapy is not to increase temperature in the skin the same way that infrared saunas or infrared light therapy is. Most of the benefits that you're going to see are from that photobiomodulation effect, and we're actually stimulating the mitochondria at the surface level of the skin with that light, which helps to ramp up some cytochrome C oxidase. It helps to increase ATP production. It helps to push along that electron transport chain. If you remember, or if you watched my video I did on methylene blue, one of the things with methylene blue that it does is it bypasses those cytochrome pathways within the electron transport chain, which helps energy production move between the complex 1 and 2 over to complex 4 within that electron transport chain. And that helps to increase cellular energy. So using something like red light that's going to stimulate that cytochrome C oxidase complex within the electron transport chain will have beneficial effects on mitochondrial function and cellular adaptation there. The other thing we're seeing with red light therapy is that red light therapy is going to be much more localized, whereas infrared therapy is typically going to be, you get in an infrared sauna, you're going to get a whole body response as a result of that. And that kind of gets back into what we're looking at as far as benefits with the infrared light versus the red light. Is red light more going to be geared towards local connective tissue, skin type issues? Infrared light, much more potent benefits for cardiovascular disease, detox, creating that kind of whole body thermic response there. So a lot of people talk about things like biohacking and mitochondrial optimization and things like that when it comes to this red light therapy stuff, but it's important to understand where the science sits on that. When we talk about infrared saunas and things like that, there's a ton of really good science that shows the benefits of infrared saunas. When we get to red light therapy, there's not quite as much. So they've got some strong evidence that shows increase in fibrinogen and increase in collagen formation in skin. So for skin and connective tissue, a lot of really good science that supports that. When we get into some of these other biohacking benefits, recovery benefits, there's some research studies that support benefits. There's some mixed research on it. One of the big things is the dosage and the timing and the strength. There's a lot of variables when it comes to using red light therapy. And there's really strong mechanistic data, which basically means we understand how this can get to this point here. The thing is, we just don't have a lot of scientific data that actually supports that on large-scale human trials. So when we're talking about using red light therapy, some of what I'm going to talk about today and have already talked about is more mechanistic and inference based on less concrete science, we'll say. Doesn't mean it's not true. Doesn't mean it doesn't do what we're saying it does. It just means that the science isn't 100% there. And with that being said, with anything like that, this is not something that you want to just jump to right away. This is something that you build on top of an already good lifestyle. So we've got to have our sleep dialed in. We've got to have our exercise, our nutrition, our stress management dialed in. And once we've built that strong foundation, this is something we can look at adding on top of that based on what our goals are. But you don't want to fall for the marketing. When you go to the red light companies, they're going to have all this marketing stuff and all this is the best thing in the world and it saves lives and it does all these things. And it's important to understand that the research doesn't necessarily support all those claims 100%. And a lot of that's based on mechanistic data. So if you're looking for a red light bed or a red light kind of device, that's going to be your save all. It's going to cure my mitochondria and fix all my energy issues. It's not going to do that. So we just need to understand that this is something that you can add on as an adjunct on top of an already really good routine, not something that we're going to add on as a cure-all, right? So I just want to make sure we get that out. I'm definitely not trying to sell you red light therapy equipment. I definitely use it on myself. I use it on my son. My wife uses it all the time. I think it's a great tool. We've just got to take that with a little bit of grain of salt that I already have a lot of other things that I'm doing. I focus on my sleep. I focus on light management. I focus on nutrition and exercise. And I use the infrared sauna and I use the cold plunge and I do all these other things. And so red light fits into that as an adjunct to all the other stuff I'm doing. I'm not just relying on red light therapy as my main source of recovery and healing and all that stuff. So I want to make sure we understand that. The other thing that's important to talk about with red light therapy is the dosage, the power of the red lights. This is where there's not a ton of research that says specifically if we do this, and this treatment protocol, we're going to get this outcome. So there is a lot of kind of mechanistic data where people are saying, well, I think that we should do this way based on this, and this, and that's fine. So the general science is basically people have said, if you want to maximize your results, kind of the 2 to 5 times a week, 10 to 20 minutes a session. You've got to play around with that. Obviously, that depends on a lot of things. If we're thinking about this from a mechanistic standpoint, what we're relying on is light penetration into the skin to activate the mitochondria, essentially, or to create that photobiomodulation effect and stimulate those mitochondrial pathways. So thickness of the skin, if we've got a ton of calluses, if we've got thicker skin, if we've got varying melanin profiles, if we've got really fair skin versus really tan skin, obviously all those things are going to impact. And I don't know the exact degree. I wish I could sit here and say, if you've got dark skin, you need to do this, light skin, you've got to do this. But unfortunately, the research just isn't there. So you do kind of have to play around with it, and there's going to be some individuality within the way that you use this. The other thing to keep in mind is that not all red light therapy is the same. I can put red lights on in a light bulb and I can sell it to you as a red light therapy device. And technically I'm not lying because it emits red light. But that's not going to be at the strength necessarily that we need to create that metabolic or physiological response in the body. When we get into the professional devices, thousands of dollars devices, those are going to have a power associated with them. Some of the over-the-counter devices, not necessarily. So we want to be careful. Anytime that there's a huge variation, I always say you don't want to pick the cheapest thing out there. It's probably not going to work as well. Chances are you probably don't need the most expensive one either. So again, I'm not trying to sell you a specific brand of red light. The one that I use is the Loom Box. I like it. It works really well. It's about this big. It can target specific areas. If you want a link to that, I can send it to you. But again, I'm definitely not trying to sell you the Loom Box. I want you to do your own research and get something that fits for you. If you're looking for more whole body systemic type stuff, you probably need a bigger panel. Jove, Joov, is another company that I know sells the big panels. They're a couple $1,000s, but it does allow you to get more of that full body effect. If we're looking at things like alopecia, we can also use like the red light helmets and stuff. That's going to be more if we have like androgen based alopecia, and we're kind of getting on a little bit of a tangent here. The video is supposed to be about infrared sauna versus red light. I just want to make sure that we have a strong understanding of what red light is actually doing before we compare the two here. So with that being said, let's kind of jump into some comparison stuff. So red light we talked about is going to be more local. It's more surface level. It's more based on stimulating and activating the mitochondria, increasing energy production, mitochondrial efficiency. There's going to be a little bit of an increase in reactive oxygen species. A transient increase in reactive oxygen species can actually activate the healing process. It can help with macrophage production, which is part of the healing process as well. So there can be a lot of cute, short-term, localized benefits from red light therapy. Again, not everything is grounded in super bulletproof long-term science. Some of that stuff is mechanistic, but just because there's not a huge 100,000 person research study that's double-blinded and placebo-controlled and all this stuff, doesn't mean it's not true. It just means that we don't have the scientific proof to say, yes, this does this. But we can still go based on mechanistic data. And as long as you're somebody who has all the other things in place and the disposable funds to be able to purchase this equipment and utilize it, and you're looking to maximize benefits, I don't think there's anything wrong with adding things into your plan, your routine, and your recovery plan that are 100% grounded in science. So that's just my personal opinion. But again, I want to be very clear that this is not 100% bulletproof scientific thing. When we get into infrared, there is a lot of really strong data, scientific data that supports the use of infrared saunas. If you want to learn more about kind of the background on infrared saunas and what those are, you're more than welcome to check out my videos I've done on infrared saunas, finished saunas, all that stuff. But like I mentioned earlier in the video, the big thing with infrared sauna, it's going to have a stronger cardiovascular effect. It's going to have more of a detox effect. You're going to sweat way more. It's going to penetrate deeper into your skin. It's going to heat your skin from the inside or heat your body from the inside out. That's kind of the benefit of the infrared sauna. If we're talking about using both of them for exercise recovery, I think red light's a lot better, and where red light's going to shine is in specific tissue injuries and specific localized repair and things like that. For instance, I was playing kickball a couple weeks ago. I messed my knee up. It's kind of lingering around. It feels like I've got some muscle tendon type stuff on the outside of my knee. And the red light, I think, is great for that because we're going to stimulate that healing process, that anti-inflammatory process, the collagen formation and resynthesis and stuff directly in my knee. Now, if we're trying to talk about athletic recovery from a nervous system standpoint, from an increase in cardiovascular output standpoint, from a circulatory standpoint and delivery of oxygen and nutrients to tissue, that's going to be more of an infrared sauna. So deciding which one of these you want to use depends on what your goals are. For a lot of people, they've got goals in both of those areas, and so I don't think there's anything wrong with using both of them. I sat in the infrared sauna for 45 minutes today. Felt amazing. There's no reason I could not have taken my loom box in there and put it on my knee for 10 or 20 minutes while I was in the infrared sauna. So again, depending on what your time and your financial resources are and your activity level and injury status and things like that, I definitely think there's a world where you can use both of these things together to really maximize healing, repair, recovery, all of that stuff. So again, just to kind of recap on here, realistically, so for recovery, infrared sauna is going to be more full body recovery, circulation, stress management, resilience, adaptation. Red light's going to be after injuries, tendon and joint issues, post-workout soreness, and localized areas. And again, there's no reason you can't combine both of these together. Like I said, my red light that I use has near infrared light that comes out of it at the same time. I can toggle between the two. I just use both of them. And then my infrared sauna has far, mid, and near infrared light that I'm using every time I go in there. Kind of last final wrap up, just to say this again, infrared sauna and red light, neither one of these are standalone things. They're meant to be added on top of a strong foundation of stress management, exercise, diet, and sleep management. If you're not doing those four things correctly, we're missing the boat on recovery, performance optimization, allowing your body to heal, all of that stuff. So those have to be foundational. I've got videos that talk about all of that stuff on the channel, so you can go through. We can try to link some of those in the comments below, so you have easy access to them. If you want to learn more about infrared sauna versus finished sauna, there's a video I've done on that as well. But that's kind of my takeaway. These are both really great tools. A lot of people report a lot of benefits from red light. So I would say don't let the fact that there's not super, super strong science on red light, don't let that discourage you from adding it in if you're already doing the other things, right? A lot of people have reported benefits from it, and there is a lot of mechanistic data and understanding on how it works. So when people report benefits from it and we understand physiologically why those benefits could have potentially taken place, I definitely think it fits in as a great tool to use to optimize recovery if you're using it correctly. And then the last thing I just want to mention that I didn't mention before is that there is a biphasic effect with red light, which means that we've got to hit the dosing correct. Too little, we're not going to stimulate the process. Too much, and we can actually overstimulate things, create more reactive oxygen species and more damage. So we've got to kind of hit the sweet spot. So don't just go buy a red light, turn it all the way up, sit in it for 30 minutes or in front of it for 30 minutes every single day, because we're going to end up maxing out our capacity and we could actually go backwards. Each manufacturer, my guess would be that they have recommended protocols based on the strength of their light and how they're designed to be used and things like that. I would defer back to the manufacturers and the protocols that they've developed, because they're the ones that know the capacity of the light and the use cases and all of that stuff. But make sure you're not just saying, okay, some is good, more is better, because we actually know that with that biphasic effect, that's not the case. So I hope this helps kind of cut through some of the noise out there. I hope this gives you a really good understanding of how red lights can help support you, how to use a red light versus how to use an infrared sauna. And as always, if you have questions, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear which one of these you guys have used, how they've worked, how you've liked it, or experience with any specific products, things like that. I'm always trying to learn more stuff. If there's other comments, other things that you want to dive deeper into, my goal is to help educate as many people as possible so they can make the best decisions for their own health and the health of their families. So take care, guys, and we'll catch you on the next video.